I mean, everyone has a different way of studying. I just knew that I was like, I can't write this all down. My hand's gonna hurt, and it's just gonna be a lot for me.
Let's welcome our next guest who just recently passed the CPA exam.
My name is Kwabena Sarpong, and I am a CPA, well, pending CPA. I've passed all 4 parts of the CPA exam. I got my Bachelor's of Science in Accounting at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And then for my Master's of Science in Accounting, I went to Indiana University at Bloomington. And a little bit about me, I just started working at PwC on October 1st of 2020. So
How did you study for the CPA exam in general?
okay, so I'll take audit for example. So all the 4 parts of the CPA, they have these, I call them chapters. I think audit had 6 chapters in them, and within each chapter there's modules. So I'll take chapter 3 for an example of audit. So I would go through and I'd do each module. I'd watch the lecture, I do the multiple choice, and I do the sims. I do that for each module within each chapter. And then at the end of each chapter, I would go back and do a comprehensive review of chapter 1. I'll do 20 questions, comprehensive review of chapter 1. So that'll be 20 multiple choice, or maybe, and some sims. And I'll do that for chapter 2, and I'll do it for chapter 3. And then after that, I'll move on to chapter 4, and I'll repeat the whole process. So I'll do all the modules for chapter 4, and then I'll do the comprehensive review for 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 questions each. And that's how I did it. I work with PwC, and they provide us with Becker. So it was a really nice opportunity for me. I didn't have to pay anything, really. I'm a horrible test taker. Ever since I took my first EOC, SAT, I was just never really good at it. And I realized that I just never really put in the effort that I did for this exam. I never really studied. I didn't do anything. I just went in there with no prep at all, and I just took those standardized tests. But because in my mind, I thought that standardized tests, there's no really way to study for it. So you're just gonna do what you know. But when I took the CPA, I realized, okay, there's a certain way you gotta think when you take these standardized tests. So that's what I learned when I took the CPA.
How do you study for multiple choice questions?
For every multiple choice, there's 4 option choices. There's gonna be one that is really correct, the best answer. There's gonna be one that is correct but not the best answer. The last 2 are gonna be one that's really, really incorrect. You can probably eliminate that one right away. And there's probably gonna be one that you're gonna think it's correct, but it's incorrect because you read the question incorrectly, if that makes sense. I know that was a lot. So for when I would do a multiple choice, I would say, okay, there's A, B, C, D. A is correct because of this. B is incorrect because of this. C is incorrect because of this. D is incorrect because of this. And I would also go back for B, C, and D. I would say B would be correct if the question was asking for this. C would be correct if the question was asking for this. And D would be correct if the question was asking for this. So I always try to know when it would be correct for like which situation. Because you never know on the exam what type of question you're going to get. So it's not enough just to know for this multiple choice, for this one multiple choice, this answer is correct. You got to know why it is correct and why these others aren't correct, and when these other answers would be correct and what scenarios. That's one thing I learned.
How do you study for simulation questions?
So when I was going through it, I was doing the simulations, I would always try to read the prompt maybe 2 or 3 times. And then I'll try to make sense of it. And I always try and go through it myself before looking at the answers. And I'll say, okay, I'll try my best. I'll try my very best before looking at anything else. And I'll just compare what I got right to what I got wrong. And if I was still confused, looking at the answers, Becker has this option where they have these like skill videos. So I would just watch the professional go through the video and say why you should have put this answer as this and this answer as that. And so I always try my very best at the beginning, and then always watch those skill videos.
How do you take study notes?
For the 4 parts, I took notes on 3 of them. I didn't feel like I needed to take them for audit because I was going into the profession of audit, and I thought I had a very good background on auditing and attestation. So when I was going through the videos, everything was like making sense. So I was like, if it makes sense, I don't really need to write it down because it makes sense. But for the other 3 parts, I was like, I didn't learn this in school, so it didn't really necessarily click when I first heard it. So I had to write it down. I know people that I'm working with, they say they took like 100 pages of notes. I'm like, that's a lot. Like you're rewriting the whole Becker book. So, and I'm like, if I know, for example, if I know cash is a debit, I don't need to write that down. Like that's something I know verbatim, I like the back of my hand. So I would only write notes on things I did not know well, because I didn't think it was worth my time to keep rewriting notes that I already knew. So
What was the most difficult section for you?
So it's kind of funny. So I thought audit was the easiest to study for, but it was also the hardest one to take. I don't know if that makes sense. When I was going through that, I was like, oh, audit, this makes sense. Everything makes sense. Everything's good. So, but when I took the test, I was like, oh, this is it's very, very hard. But when I walked out of there, I was like, I don't know how I did. That was the first test I ever took. So I didn't know like anything. So I was a little scared when I walked out. I was like, I did not think I passed that walking out. I was like, this is not good. But then I got my score back and I saw it was an 81. So I was like, okay. So that I was like, oh, beautiful, that's perfect. So when I walked out all the other exams, I was like, audit was definitely the one I felt the least comfortable about. So I was like, as soon as I left all the other three, because I took them all after, I was like, I definitely passed, because I was like, that was not as hard as audit was.
In what order did you take the CPA exam?
So I took audit first. I was still in school, and I thought it was going to be the easiest because I was going in the field of auditing, and I just finished taking an auditing class in my master's. I started studying in January, and I took auditing that fall. So I just fresh off, I was like, okay, everything should flow from the class into the book, and I was like, I'm going into this profession. So I thought I'd start off strong with the CPA. So I was like, okay, auditing is probably going to be the one that is going to be easiest for me personally. Well, I wanted to take FAR because I was taking a consolidation class that semester, and I knew that FAR had some consolidation chapters as well. So I thought if I started studying for FAR, the class would help me a lot when I was studying, which it did. So I thought that was going to be a nice follow-up. And then I decided to do Reg Third because I thought BEC was going to be the easiest. So I was like, I'm going to save the easiest for last. It's going to be like the victory lap. It's going to be, and I also was going to start working. So I was like, if I had to take one during work, I would hope it would be BEC versus all the other ones, but I thought all those were going to be harder.
How long did it take you to finish the CPA exam?
So I started studying January, I want to say like 4th. I started studying for audit. I was also in school of my master's program, and I was doing a chapter a day for audit. I was doing a chapter a week for audit, and then I took it in March, one of the last days. And then it was kind of funny because I took a practice exam on March 7th, and then I got like a 75, and I signed up to take my exam that Saturday. So I took the practice on like a Thursday, and I went to go take the real one. I signed up, so I took it on I took the practice March 7th, signed up to take the real one on March 8th for March 10th. So yeah. So I was like, well, if I got a 75, I'm ready to take it. So like, why wait? And I wanted to get my score back because that was like the testing periods, the testing windows. So I was like, if I take it now, I'll get my score back in like two weeks. So I went and I took it, and then the rest is history. So at BEC, I found out I passed October 9th, and I took it sometimes mid-September, like September 17th-ish. My main goal was to get it done before starting work. And I started work October 1st. So I was like, okay, I'll take it October 17th. I find out October 9th, and I won't be studying at all. Because I was like, the last thing I want to do is go work all day and then come back home and study all night. And I was like, that's not exactly how I want to live my life. I'm not doing that. I was like, I will study all summer, and I'll do whatever it takes just so I don't have to take it while I'm working. So all in all, from January to September, so about 8.5 months.
How did you stay focused and maintain the drive and self-discipline to pass this exam?
So when I was studying for audit, I was like, okay, I actually like the stuff I'm learning. I was like, this is great. This is beautiful. I took it, I passed. I was like, okay. Then I went to FAR, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of nitty gritty stuff. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. then I just remembered my motivation. So everyone's gonna have a different reason for being motivated. Mine personally was that my firm was giving out a bonus if you pass in the first year. So that was my main motivation. And there's also ample amount of career opportunities that are available to you with this accreditation. So I always remember the why I'm doing this. And I know for some people, the why is probably just not gonna be, the cost is not going to outweigh the benefits, so they're probably going to stop. They're probably going to say, I don't want to do accounting long term. So I understand like why they would stop, but for me, this is a field that I saw that I wanted to be in for a long time, and I thought this certification was really going to help me down the line. So for me, the big thing is always remember the why you're doing it. All my friends lived in North Carolina, but for the summer, I was like, if I stay in Indiana, it's gonna force me to study. None of my friends are gonna be there, so that I have no distractions. And the few friends I do have in Indiana are also studying for the CPA. So it just allowed me to just really grind it out and just focus and study. And then there was quarantine, so no one was going out anyway. So I didn't have like, oh, I want to go out with my friends, because no one was going out. So I was like, I literally have no excuse not to study right now. So that was another thing that I was able to capitalize on to pass these exams.
And what advice would you like to share?
So the biggest thing I would say is that I wish I started earlier. I wish I started in the fall semester of my master's program instead of the spring. That way I could have had more time off before I started working. But I just didn't think I could handle the workload of school and studying for the CPA. But after my first semester, I was like, I definitely could have took more time. I definitely could have started studying a little bit earlier. And the thing was, I only had classes on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I was like, I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I could have been studying the fall semester. And I was like, oh, I wish and during those late nights in the summer, I was like, I really wish I could have started studying earlier and had this time off. My next tip is that just remember that just because some things work for other people doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So I know a lot of people like the flashcards. My firm provided me with flashcards. I didn't even look at them. They're still like packaged up. They're not even unwrapped or anything. I didn't use the final review book or the flashcards, and they're just sitting there because I was like, I don't think I need them. It was just not worth my time personally. But I know other people, they're like, I love the flashcards. That's the main way I learn. They prefer the flashcards over like taking notes, and they use the final review book. So just remember that you are not anyone else. I know someone I saw on LinkedIn, they passed all 4 parts in a month. And I know other people that have failed like an ample amount. I also saw on LinkedIn, I met this lady who failed 27 times before getting her accreditation. So like everyone, it's different for everyone. So don't get discouraged that you're not getting something as quickly as your peers, because you never know, one day, the next exam, they could be coming for you for help because they just don't understand as quickly as you do. So it's just really, don't try to compare yourself to other people as much, and just try to run your own race. Also, one thing I used to study, there's also those AICPA questions that they release for every exam. So I always go through and look at those, and I'm like, okay, if I got a majority of these right, these are type of questions I expect to see on the exam. I should do fairly well based off of the amount of questions I got right on this AICPA release.